Marcus Carter's voice sliced through the chandelier-lit hush of the Grand Lexington lobby. "You're denying me room service, why? Say it clearly." The manager didn't blink. Tailored navy suit, slicked hair, that thin, brittle smile. "Sir, certain services are discretionary. Room service isn't available to you tonight." It was the ease of it that stung. The way he said it, like weather, like gravity, like something permanent and unquestionable. In a 5-star hotel with gold-edged menus and a grand piano sighing soft jazz, a paying guest had just been quietly pushed out of the circle. Marcus felt heat gathering at his collar. Not fear-insult. Around them, people paused. A mother drew her daughter closer and whispered, eyes down. 2 consultants in charcoal suits exchanged looks, then focused fiercely on their phones, as if emails could shield them from conscience. The bellhop's hands trembled against the brass handle of the luggage cart, knuckles whitening, eyes flicking to the manager and back to Marcus like he was watching a fuse burn. Marcus stepped closer to the desk. "Let's not play polite. Every guest here can pick up a phone and get dinner delivered on a white linen tray. I watched 2 carts go into the elevator in the last half hour. What changed when I asked? My room or my skin?" The manager's smile tightened. "Sir, you're welcome to dine in the restaurant. We'd be happy to accommodate you there." "Accommodate," Marcus repeated softly, tasting the word like ash. "I didn't ask to be accommodated. I asked for the same service." Silence spread across the marble, wide and glossy as a river at night. In the lounge, the pianist missed a note and recovered, eyes carefully averted. A waiter slowed, then turned on his heel and disappeared into the restaurant's darkness. The lobby smelled faintly of lemon polish and expensive perfume, a scent Marcus knew would stick in his memory the way the desert sticks in your boots. He held the manager's gaze. "One more time, for the recording. Are you saying room service is available to other guests, but not to me?" A beat, then that smile again. "I'm saying what I said." At the elevator bank, a teenager raised his phone, the red dot blinking. "To life." A woman near the fireplace leaned forward and whispered, "This is wrong," though only her husband heard, and he tugged gently at her sleeve. The universal sign for keep out of it. Marcus felt a familiar, combative stillness settle over him, the one that used to arrive in far harsher places than this. He remembered desert nights when the horizon glowed with trouble. He remembered men of every color splitting rations, trusting one another with the day they might not have. Out there, dignity wasn't something you granted or denied. It was something you protected. "You know what's wild?" he said, voice level. "I wore a uniform for this country. I learned to keep people safe. I learned to keep my temper. And here at a hotel where I paid full price, you want to tell me I don't qualify for a tray of food? If you're going to do it, at least own it. Look me in the eye and say what you mean." The manager cleared his throat. "Sir, I've been very clear." "No," Marcus said, calm as steel. "You've been cowardly. Now pause with me, because this is where you come in. If you were standing in this lobby, would you step forward? Would you put a hand on this moment and say, 'That's not how we do people'? Or would you pretend the floor was fascinating and let the moment pass? Be honest. Tell me in the comments. Silence is never neutral. It shields something or it shatters it. Which side does your silence serve?" And before we go further, like this video, subscribe and ring the bell. You're going to want the rest of this, because 10 minutes from now, the man being denied a sandwich will be holding all the power in this room. Back to the desk. The manager straightened a pen on the counter, a small ritual of control. If you persist, he said, I'll have to ask you to leave. Marcus raised an eyebrow. For asking for dinner. For creating a disturbance. The words echoed, absurd and tidy. A disturbance. The way thunder disturbs a sky already heavy with storm. The way truth disturbs a lie that has gotten too comfortable. Marcus set his palms lightly on the counter, not leaning, just anchoring. Here's what's actually disturbing, he said. That you can name this building with a straight face, legacy, excellence, and still make a decision like this without flinching. That you can talk about reputation while gambling with basic dignity. A couple near the bar looked over, conflicted. The woman's eyes brimmed with a courage she hadn't yet decided to use. The man's jaw worked like he was grinding up words. He didn't want to swallow. The bellhop took a half step forward, then back again. The smallest rebellion collapsing under the math of rent due Friday. Sir, the manager said, thinner now, lower your voice. Marcus shook his head. I won't lower it to make your conscience comfortable. He turned slightly, opened his stance to the whole lobby. You all hear me, he called, not loud, but carrying. I asked politely. I asked clearly. Being denied something every other guest gets by someone who won't say why. If that sits right with you, keep watching. If it doesn't, say so. A businessman in a grey coat rose halfway from his club chair, then faltered. He's right, he murmured to himself, to his shoes, before sitting again. A college kid whispered, this is going viral, and angled for a better shot. The pianist found a brave chord and let it ring. Marcus returned to the desk. I'll give you one last chance to choose your words carefully. The manager's smile finally dropped. You people always want special treatment, he snapped. Quiet enough to pretend, loud enough to wound. The lobby absorbed the sentence the way skin absorbs a burn instantly, then forever. Someone gasped. Someone else muttered, did he just, and didn't finish. Marcus's eyes didn't leave the manager's. There it is, he said softly. The real policy. He let the moment hang. He felt the room's weight tilt. Toward him, not because he raised his voice, but because he refused to lower his eyes. He thought of the long ledger of small humiliations that men like him carry, of the way they add up until there's interest to pay, of the way a man decides, finally, today I won't sign for this. I'm going to ask once more, he said. Is room service available to every guest here? The manager's jaw twitched. This conversation is over. No, Marcus answered, it isn't. He drew a breath, and in it was the patience of 1,000 times he had let a thing slide for the sake of peace. Then he exhaled, and in that breath was the end of that habit. If you won't correct yourself, he said, then I will correct. The situation, the manager scoffed. You think you can threaten me? Not a threat, Marcus said, a promise. At the edge of the room, the young mother lifted her chin. He's right, she said, barely louder than a prayer, but it carried. Her daughter looked up at her with wide, learning eyes. The consultants looked at each other, then back at Marcus. One of them, redeered, said to nobody in particular, we can't still be doing this. The bellhop found his voice. Sir, he said to the manager, voice shaking, policy says equal service to all registered guests. The manager rounded on him. Back to your station. The bellhop flushed and stepped back, but not all the way. A sliver of spine had appeared and refused to vanish. Marcus nodded to the kid, a small salute across the distance. Then he faced the manager again. "It's simple," he said. "Deny me if you want, but understand, disrespect has consequences. You may not see them yet. You will." The lobby held its breath. Somewhere an ice scoop clanged against a bucket. Somewhere a suit jacket creaked as a man crossed his arms and decided to keep them there. 10 minutes. That's all it would take to flip the floor plan of this moment. 10 minutes, and the word "my" would move from the manager's mouth to Marcus's hands. 10 minutes, and the marble would remember applause instead of silence. But for now, there was only the question, bright as a flare. Who are you when the quiet choice is easy? The comments section is open. Put yourself in this lobby and tell the truth. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. Then stay, because the next sound you hear will be the beginning of the end. For a smile that mistook itself for power, Marcus remembered. A roadside diner years back, the way the server kept skipping his table until the lunch rush died. The way the check arrived before the coffee did. He remembered a conference lobby where security asked for his badge 3 times while other men walked through with a nod. Those were small cuts, he told himself then. Tonight was the same knife, swung harder, and finally, he had decided to catch the blade. If you've ever felt that blade, tell your story below. If you've ever watched someone else take the cut, say what you did or wish you'd done. This community isn't just an audience. It's witnesses, it's allies, it's a record. Your comment might be the permission someone needs to speak. Up tomorrow, the manager exhaled through his nose, a little sound of contempt. "We're done. We're just starting," Marcus said, and the lobby believed him. And you on the other side of this screen, don't scroll past. Tap like so the story travels. Subscribe so you're here when the turn comes. Hit the bell so you hear it ring when justice does. Now breathe in with him. The next line changes everything. Marcus Carter's fists clenched at his sides as the hotel lobby buzzed with a nervous silence. He had just been told he couldn't order room service, not because of any written policy, not because of a mistake in the system, but because the manager standing across from him had chosen to strip him of dignity with a single word: no. Think about that for a second. What would you do if it happened to you? If you were exhausted, hungry, and paying good money for a luxury room, only to be told you weren't worthy of the same service others received, would you fight back? Would you call for help? Or would you stay quiet, afraid of causing a scene? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments right now, because silence in the face of injustice says more than words ever could. Marcus leaned across the polished counter, his voice steady but trembling with restrained anger. "I want you to repeat exactly what you just told me," he demanded. "Say it again. Say it so every single person in this lobby hears you." The manager's smug expression faltered. His eyes darted quickly toward the growing group of guests who had stopped to watch. Some clutched their bags a little tighter. Some looked disgusted, while others looked entertained, as if this was some cheap reality show playing out live in front of them. And yes, there were those who smirked, silently agreeing with the discrimination. "Sir," the manager said stiffly, "this discussion is over. You are welcome to dine downstairs with the other guests. If you don't like it, perhaps this hotel isn't the right fit for you." The words cut like broken glass. A woman gasped softly. A young man shook his head, muttering, "Did he really?" "Just say that." The bellhop near the elevator gripped the handle of his luggage cart so tightly his knuckles turned pale. But he didn't move. Marcus turned slightly, his eyes sweeping across the room. He raised his voice so everyone could hear. "So this is it. This is how the Grand Lexington treats its guests. If you're watching this unfold right now and think it doesn't concern you, remember, ignoring injustice today means living with its consequences tomorrow. He shifted his focus outward, not just to the people in the lobby, but to us watching, you listening to this story right now. Hit that like button if you believe no one should ever be denied basic respect. Subscribe if you believe dignity is a right, not a privilege. And stay with me, because this story doesn't end with me walking away humiliated. What happens next changes everything. Back at the counter, the manager's patience snapped. He motioned toward a hallway. Within seconds, a tall, broad-shouldered security guard appeared, his black uniform stretched across his chest, his heavy boots echoing against the marble floor. His arrival was meant to intimidate. His presence was meant to silence Marcus. But Marcus didn't flinch. He had faced down worse threats in deserts overseas. He had stared into the eyes of enemies far more dangerous than a hotel manager with a clipboard and an oversized ego. The guard stopped a few feet away. His voice was low and cautious. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to calm down and step away." Marcus locked eyes with him, refusing to back down. "Calm down. I asked for food. I ask for the same service everyone else here gets. And for that, you're threatening to remove me." A ripple of whispers moved through the lobby. A teenage boy whispered to his mother, "This is wrong." She quickly hushed him, pulling him closer. Another man, holding his phone just low enough not to be obvious, was already recording. The manager adjusted his tie, forcing a smile. "You see, you're creating a disturbance. We value peace for our guests. Perhaps if you had approached this differently." Marcus's voice cut like thunder. "No, don't twist this. I was polite. I was respectful. I followed every rule. The only thing different here is the color of my skin, and you know it. Say it, admit it, because everyone here already knows it." The entire lobby froze. The pianist at the grand piano stopped mid-note, his hands hovering over the keys. A family that had just walked in through the revolving door paused, suitcases half-rolled, eyes wide at the tension thick in the air. And then finally another voice broke the silence. A woman in a tailored grey suit, clearly a regular business traveler, stepped forward. Her voice shook but carried strength. "This is unacceptable. I've stayed here dozens of times, and I've never seen a guest treated this way. Are you really denying him service just because of who he is?" The manager's jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. "Ma'am, please, you don't understand," but she wasn't backing down. "No, I understand perfectly. I understand discrimination when I see it, and so does everyone else here." Her words acted like sparks to dry kindling. The murmurs grew louder. A man near the elevators muttered, "He's right. I literally saw a tray being sent upstairs 15 minutes ago." Another woman added, "This is blatant discrimination. You can't excuse it." Marcus turned to them, his expression softening just a fraction. "Thank you," he said, his voice carrying both gratitude and exhaustion. Then, louder, for all to hear, "This isn't just about me. This is about every single person who's been told they're less than, every child who's been ignored, every worker who's been dismissed, every soldier who gave everything for this country, only to come home and be treated like they don't belong." His words didn't just hang. In the air, they sank into the people around him. Some lowered their eyes in shame. Others nodded, their own experiences mirrored in his. The manager's face burned crimson. His voice cracked as he snapped at the security guard. escort him out. Now, the guard hesitated. He looked at Marcus, then at the crowd, then at the woman who had spoken up. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. He lowered his voice, speaking so only Marcus could hear. "Sir, maybe we should wait. This doesn't look good." The manager slammed his palm against the counter. "Do as you're told." Marcus straightened to his full height. His posture radiated the strength of a man who had endured too much to be broken now. He wasn't moving. Not when moving meant bowing to humiliation. Not when it meant letting. This man believed he had won. And here's the twist none of them knew. Marcus wasn't just another guest. He wasn't just a man with a credit card and a room key. He was someone with influence. Someone who had the power to decide the very future of the smug manager now glaring at him in less than 10 minutes. The man being denied a simple meal would have the chance to turn the tables, send fire the very person who tried to strip him of his dignity. But that moment wasn't here yet. The bowstring had to stretch further before it snapped. Marcus leaned toward the security guard, his voice steady but filled with weight. "You have a choice to make. Right now, you can be part of the problem or part of the solution. What kind of man do you want to be remembered as?" The guard froze, caught between orders and conscience. His silence spoke volumes, and Marcus. He knew it was only a matter of time before justice arrived. Because justice always shows up, sometimes late, sometimes quiet, but it always comes. Stay with me, because the next few moments will leave you stunned. Justice isn't just on its waits, already at the door. The silence in the lobby was unbearable. You could almost hear the heartbeat of every single person standing there, waiting to see what would happen next. The manager's face was twisted with authority that was starting to slip. The security guard's hesitation was growing heavier by the second. And Marcus stood firm, his presence filling the space like a storm cloud about to burst. The guard's hand twitched at his side. He looked at Marcus again, then at the crowd, watching intently. "Sir, please." His voice cracked. "Don't make this harder than it already is." Marcus's eyes never left him. Harder for who? For you? For him? He tilted his head toward the manager. Or for me, the one being told I don't belong here? The question echoed through the lobby. A young woman near the staircase whispered, "He's right." Someone else muttered, "This is embarrassing for the hotel." The manager's jaw clenched. "Enough of this nonsense. If you don't leave quietly, I'll make sure you regret it." Marcus actually chuckled low, bitter, a sound filled with disbelief. "You'll make me regret it." He leaned forward, his voice sharper now, cutting through the heavy air. "You've already denied me the dignity every guest here expects. Tell me what's left to take." For a split second, no one breathed. The security guard's hand faltered. He stepped back just half an inch, a gesture small but powerful. He wasn't going to force Marcus out. Not yet, the manager noticed, fury rising in his eyes. "Do your job," he barked, his voice breaking into a higher pitch. But the guard didn't move. He just stood there, silent eyes flickering with guilt. That was all Marcus needed to know. He straightened, turned toward the crowd, and lifted his chin proudly. His voice boomed, filling every corner of the grand lobby. "You all see what's happening here. You see the choice he's making, and you see the choice this manager has made. Let me ask you, if this was you, your brother, your father, your child, would you walk away quietly? Or would you stand up for yourself? Tell me in the comments below, because I want to know how many of you would let silence win." Murmurs swelled in the crowd. A few people raised their phones higher. recording openly now. Others nodded. A man in a navy blazer stepped forward, speaking firmly. This isn't right. He's paying for his room like anyone else. Why is he being treated differently? The manager snapped his fingers. Sir, please, mind your own business. This does not involve you. But the man didn't back down. Oh, it involves every one of us. Because if you can treat him this way today, what's stopping you from treating me this way tomorrow? Or anyone else here? The tension in the room cracked open. People began muttering louder, voices of agreement blending into a rising tide. The manager's face went pale, his authority crumbling in real time. He slammed his hand on the counter again. Enough. This is my hotel. I make the decisions here. That was the final mistake. Marcus's laugh was different this time, calm, steady, almost amused. Your hotel, that's what you think. The words drew confused stares. The crowd shifted, sensing something was about to explode. Even the manager blinked, thrown off by Marcus's confidence. Marcus reached into his pocket and slowly pulled out his phone. He scrolled for a moment, then held the screen up for the manager to see. His voice was quiet, deadly controlled. Tell me, do you recognize this name? The manager squinted, eyes widening as he read the text displayed clearly on the screen. His lips parted, but no words came. He stumbled slightly, caught off guard. The crowd leaned in closer. Whispers passed like wildfire. What is it? What's going on? Why does he look scared? Marcus slid the phone back into his pocket and leaned against the counter casually, as if he suddenly had all the time in the world. You see, while you've been so busy humiliating me in front of everyone here, you didn't stop to ask who I am. You didn't bother to find out why I'm in this city. And that, sir, will be your downfall. The manager's forehead glistened. With sweat, his throat bobbed as he tried to swallow. Who are you? He, Stammered. But there was no kindness in it. The wrong man to deny service to. Gasps rippled through the lobby. The pianist, who had been frozen in place all this time, pressed his hands together nervously. The bellhop near the elevator dropped his gaze, suddenly realizing he was witnessing a story that would be told for years. Marcus leaned closer, lowering his voice just enough that the manager had to strain to hear him. 10 minutes, that's all it will take. 10 minutes, and you'll know exactly who I am. The manager's face drained of color. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, trapped between fear and confusion. Marcus turned to the crowd, his voice rising again, steady and commanding. Stay right here. Watch what happens when the truth comes out. And if you believe in justice, if you believe no one should ever be silenced for the color of their skin, make sure you're subscribed. Because what's about to happen isn't just a story. It's proof that dignity will always win. The lobby buzzed with anticipation. Guests whispered, eyes darting between Marcus and the rattled manager. The woman in the grey suit crossed her arms, glaring at the manager with disgust. The man in the navy blazer muttered, I knew something was off about him. The security guard finally stepped back completely, lowering his hands. His voice was firm, carrying regret. Sir, I won't touch him. Not after this. The manager spun on him. You're finished. You'll regret defying me. But his words lacked weight now. Authority was slipping through his fingers, crumbling in front of everyone. Marcus didn't flinch. He pulled out his phone again, tapped a single button, and raised it to his ear. The lobby went dead silent. Every eye followed him. Every breath seemed to pause. "Hello," Marcus said calmly into the phone. "Yes, it's me. I'm at the Lexington. There's a situation here that needs to be addressed immediately." The way he spoke carried a gravity that no one could mistake. It wasn't the tone of a man begging for help. It was the tone of someone giving orders, of someone used to being obeyed. The manager's knees wobbled slightly. His lips pressed into a thin line. Marcus ended the call with a simple 10 minutes. He slid the phone into his pocket again and looked the manager dead in the eye. "You have exactly that long to decide what kind of man you want to be remembered as." And then he stepped back, calm, controlled, waiting. The crowd erupted in whispers. Who was this man? What did he mean by 10 minutes? And what was about to happen that could possibly shake this hotel to its very core? Stay with me, because the answer is closer than you think. The clock ticked louder than ever in the minds of everyone in that lobby. 10 minutes, that's what Marcus had promised. And now, with every passing second, the weight of his words seemed to grow heavier and heavier. The manager paced behind the counter, his fingers drumming nervously on the polished wood. His once confident voice had fallen silent, replaced by quick glances toward the front doors. The security guard had retreated to the side, arms folded, unwilling to play the manager's puppet any longer. The crowd, they were restless now. Phones stayed lifted, cameras recording, whispers circling like a storm cloud. The young woman in the grey suit leaned close to the man in the navy blazer and murmured, "Who do you think he called?" The man shook his head. "Whoever it was, it's someone powerful. Did you hear his voice? That wasn't a man asking for backup. That was a man giving an order." Marcus stood still, like a statue carved from steel, his arms folded across his chest, his eyes locked on the manager, who refused to meet his gaze. He didn't need to speak. He didn't need to shout. His silence carried more weight than any scream could. A child tugged on his mother's sleeve nearby. "Mummy, why are they being mean to him?" The mother pressed her lips together, kneeling beside her son, because some people forget how to treat others with kindness. "But we're going to remember, aren't we?" The boy nodded firmly, his innocent voice carrying louder than he realized. "It's not fair." The words hung in the air like a dagger. Guests turned their eyes back to Marcus, shame washing over some of them. Silence had been their shield until now, but that child's voice cut through their excuses. Marcus finally turned to face the boy. His expression softened for just a moment. "You're right, son, it's not fair. But sometimes unfair moments give us the chance to show who we really are." He looked back at the crowd. "So, who are you going to be today? The ones who stand by quietly, or the ones who stand up when it matters?" The woman in the grey suit straightened her shoulders. "I know who I'm going to be." She stepped forward, pulling her phone down and speaking directly to the manager. "This isn't just a complaint anymore. This is discrimination, plain and simple. And if you think this isn't going to end up everywhere online by the end of the night, you're mistaken." The manager whipped his head toward her, his voice cracking. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about." Her eyes burned with conviction. "You denied him service for no reason other than the color of his skin. And now, in front of dozens of witnesses, you're trying to bury that mistake with arrogance. You should be ashamed." Gasps echoed. The manager's face turned a blotchy red. "This is my hotel." But he froze mid-sentence, because at that very moment, The lobby doors swung open. Two black SUVs pulled up outside, their sleek frames gleaming under the golden lights of the entrance. Men in tailored suits stepped in first, their presence commanding instant attention. They weren't guests. They weren't staff. They were professionals, sharp, efficient, and unmistakably authoritative. The crowd murmured louder now. Who are they? What's happening? The manager's face went pale. He stumbled backward a step, his confidence draining like water through a sieve. And then another man entered. Calm, tall, radiating the kind of energy that silences a room. His suit was immaculate, his stride deliberate. But it wasn't just the clothes that caught attention, it was the respect he commanded with nothing more than his presence. He walked straight toward Marcus. No hesitation, no confusion. "Sir," he said, voice deep, reverent, respectful. "Apologies for the delay. We came as quickly as we could." Marcus nodded once, acknowledging him without breaking his composed stance. "Thank you." The crowd exploded into whispers. "Wait, what's happening? Who is he? Why are they addressing him like that?" The manager's jaw dropped. "W8, what is this?" Marcus finally turned back to him. His eyes were cold, sharp as glass. "This," he said slowly, deliberately, "is the moment where you realize that arrogance and ignorance come with consequences." The suited man glanced around the lobby, his gaze sweeping over the crowd before resting firmly on the trembling. "Manager, are you the one responsible for this treatment?" The manager swallowed hard. I was just following procedure. Marcus cut him off, his voice slicing through the air. "Tell me, which procedure states that? A paying guest can be humiliated, denied service, and threatened because of the color of his skin. Which policy says dignity is optional?" The manager stammered. I didn't mean." Marcus raised a hand, silencing him. "You had 10 minutes. 10 minutes to think about who you are. And now, your choice is clear to everyone watching." The woman in the grey suit spoke again, her voice firm. "We've all seen enough. We know exactly what kind of man he is." The suited man nodded gravely. "Understood, sir." He reached into his coat, producing a folder. The hotel's golden emblem was embossed across the front. He opened it carefully, pulling out a document. The manager's eyes widened in horror as the man unfolded the paper. "W8, what is that?" The suited man spoke calmly, but with finality. "An executive order, effective immediately." Gasps swept the crowd. Guests leaned forward, straining to hear every word. The man's voice carried like a gavel in a courtroom. "You are hereby relieved of your position as acting manager of this establishment. Effective right now." The manager's knees buckled. His mouth fell open, but no sound came. His authority, his arrogance, his false sense of power, all of it crumbled in front of everyone. The crowd erupted in applause, others in stunned silence. Phones captured every second. Marcus's voice was calm, unwavering. "Justice doesn't always come in silence. Sometimes it needs to be spoken aloud, in front of the very people who doubted it would ever arrive." He looked around the lobby, meeting the eyes of strangers who now stood united. Remember this moment, because the fight against injustice doesn't end in a hotel lobby. It begins wherever you have the courage to stand up and say, "Enough." The lobby shook with applause. The boy who had spoken earlier clapped the loudest, his small voice rising proudly. "Yeah, enough." Marcus smiled faintly at him, then turned back to the crowd. "If you believe in dignity, equality, and standing firm when the world tries to break you. Hit that like button, share this story, and most importantly, never let silence become the answer. The manager slumped into a chair, his face buried. In his hands, the sound of his downfall echoing louder than any words he could have spoken. And Marcus, he stood tall, steady, unbroken. A man who had turned humiliation into triumph, silence into a roar, and injustice into undeniable proof that truth will always rise. But this wasn't the end. Oh no, what happened next would shock even those who believed they had seen it all. Because Marcus's true identity was only just beginning to unfold. Marcus stood there, his jaw tight, his hands clenched at his sides as the laughter of the manager echoed across the lobby. You think you can come in here, demanding respect, when you can't even follow the rules like everyone else? The manager sneered loudly, making sure every guest within earshot could hear. The humiliation stung sharper than any insult Marcus had ever endured. Rules, Marcus repeated, his voice low, heavy with restrained fury. You're calling discrimination a rule? The manager crossed his arms. Don't twist my words. We provide service to paying customers who belong here. People like you always think you're owed something extra. Not in my hotel. The word belong hung in the air like a poisoned dagger. Several guests shifted uncomfortably. A woman near the front desk whispered to her husband, "This feels wrong," while a young man pulled out his phone, recording discreetly from behind a pillar. And right here, before I take you deeper, I want to ask you, what would you do if you were standing there? Would you speak up, stay silent, or hit record and share it with the world? Comment below, because this is where people's true values are revealed. Back in the lobby, Marcus swallowed hard, fighting the storm inside him. All I asked for, he said, steady but tight, was the same service you'd give anyone else. The manager shot back, doesn't cause trouble the moment they arrive. Now I'm telling you one last time, sir, before I call security, leave. Gasps rippled. Even the receptionist, who had been silent, glanced nervously at Marcus as if to say she knew this wasn't right, but didn't dare intervene. A security guard stationed by the entrance hesitated, his eyes flicking between Marcus and the manager, clearly unsure of whose authority to honor. The silence grew thick, broken only by the faint hum of the lobby's chandelier lights. Voice cracked the air like a sudden clap of thunder. You don't know who you're talking to. The manager barked a laugh, tilting his head back arrogantly. Oh, here it comes. The classic line. Let me guess you're some big shot, please. I've seen hundreds like you come through here. Big egos, bigger entitlement. You're nobody, that nobody struck like a slap. A woman near the elevators muttered, "That's enough," but her companion shushed her, tugging her away. Others leaned in closer, captivated by the unraveling drama. Phones came out, little red recording dots blinking like quiet witnesses. Marcus stepped forward slowly, his eyes locking onto the manager's with such intensity the man faltered half a step. Nobody, Marcus repeated. Say that again. Look me in the eye and say, I'm nobody. The manager's smirk wavered, but he doubled down. That's exactly what I'm saying. You don't belong in a place like this. You don't matter here. For a moment, Marcus didn't respond. He let the weight of those words sink into the air, let them seep into the ears of every bystander holding their breath. Then he spoke, calm but unyielding. Funny, because this place you say I don't belong to, it's mine. The lobby erupted with murmurs. The manager blinked, confused, then scoffed. Yours. Don't make me laugh. You can't even afford a night here, let alone own the place. Marcus's lips curled into the faintest, coldest smile. He reached into his jacket, pulling out a sleek leather folder, the kind executives carried. Inside was an embossed card, polished and unmistakable. He held it up, just enough for the nearest guest and the manager to see. Marcus Wright, majority investor, effective last quarter. The controlling interest of this hotel group is under my name. The color drained from the manager's face. He tried to laugh it off, his voice cracking with forced bravado. This is some kind of prank. You think waving around a card will scare me. But the receptionist's eyes widened. She recognized the company insignia on the folder, the seal used only by ownership. She whispered to a colleague, and within seconds, staff members who had been lurking in the background began straightening their posture, eyes darting nervously toward Marcus. Call security, the manager barked, desperation leaking into his voice. But the guard at the entrance froze, torn between orders and the dawning realization of the truth. Marcus stepped closer, his presence towering, though he never raised his voice. Call them if you want, but know this: when they arrive, they'll be reporting to me, not you. The air snapped taut, as though everyone in that lobby had forgotten to breathe. Some guests stared in awe, others in disbelief. Phones angled higher, recording every heartbeat of this reversal. You're lying, the manager whispered, though his tone betrayed his crumbling confidence. Am I? Marcus asked, sliding the folder onto the front desk with a sharp, deliberate motion. Inside was documentation, stamped, signed, sealed, real, unarguable. The receptionist covered her mouth, staring as though she'd just seen her entire career flash before her eyes. A ripple of gasps ran through the lobby. Someone whispered, "Oh my God, it's true." Another muttered, "This is insane. He really owns it." The manager staggered back a step, his complexion pale. But even in his panic, arrogance clawed for survival. Even if that's true, even if, you still, he faltered, unable to find footing. You still can't, just I can, Marcus cut him off sharply. And I will. The silence after those words was thunderous. The manager's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. He turned, looking wildly at the staff for support, but none met his eyes. The receptionist lowered her gaze. The security guard stiffened to attention, awaiting Marcus's cue. Even the guests, once passive spectators, now glared with a sense of justice long overdue, and right here. Let me pause again and ask you, if you had just watched a man go from being humiliated to revealing he owns the very ground beneath the feet of his accuser, wouldn't your jaw drop? Wouldn't you cheer? If you're feeling that power shift right now, drop a comment and let me know you're with Marcus in this moment. Back in the lobby, Marcus's calm deepened. You thought I was nobody. You thought I didn't belong here. But this hotel, every hallway, every room, every service you denied Immers under my name, and you. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so the words pierced like steel. You just made the biggest mistake of your career. The manager stumbled, nearly tripping over his own feet. His arrogance had evaporated, leaving only fear and desperation. Mr. Wright, please. I didn't know you. Didn't care to know, Marcus snapped, his voice sharp enough to cut. You judged me before you even heard me. You looked at me and decided my worth. And now you'll answer for it. The lobby held its breath, hanging on the edge of what Marcus would say next. The manager's future dangled in the air like a guillotine waiting to drop. And that's where we'll leave this parton, the razor's edge of justice. Because what comes next will change everything, not just for this manager, but for everyone watching. The manager's legs trembled as if the marble floor beneath him had turned to quicksand. For the first time all night, his voice lost its smug sharpness. "Mr. Wright, I didn't mean any disrespect. If I had known, I would. Have what?" Marcus cut in, his voice low but thunderous with authority. "Would have pretended respect. Would have smiled to my face while thinking I didn't belong here." His eyes narrowed. "No, the truth is, you showed me exactly who you are." Every guest in the lobby stood frozen, as if they were part of a courtroom waiting for a verdict. Phones kept recording. Some people whispered, "This is going viral." Others murmured, "Finally, justice." The receptionist glanced at Marcus, then looked away, ashamed that she hadn't spoken up earlier. The security guard, once hesitant, now stood firmly on Marcus's side, his posture straight and disciplined, waiting only for Marcus's command. The manager tried to regain footing. "This was all a misunderstanding. You're twisting it." Marcus's laughter cut through the room like steel. Not the laugh of amusement, but the kind that made spines stiffen. "A misunderstanding. You humiliated me in front of strangers. You mocked me, threatened to throw me out, all because you assumed I was less than you. Don't call that a misunderstanding. Call it what it is, discrimination." The word rang out, heavy, undeniable. A few guests actually clapped softly, unable to stop themselves. The manager turned beet red, sweat dripping down his temples. Marcus stepped closer. Until he was so near, the manager had to tilt his chin up to meet his eyes. "You wanted to make an example of me. Congratulations, you just did. But it won't be the example you imagined." He gestured toward the people filming. "Because now the world will see how you treat people you think are powerless. And the world will see how wrong you are." The manager swallowed hard, looking desperately around, but there was no rescue. No one on staff would come to his defense. Guests turned away, ashamed for him, disgusted by him. Marcus let the silence drag, savoring the shift of power. Then, with precise clarity, he gave his command. Effective immediately, "You're terminated." The lobby gasped collectively. The receptionist's hand flew to her mouth. The security guard blinked, then nodded firmly, stepping forward toward the manager. You can't do this," the manager stammered, panic rising in his throat. "I just did." Marcus replied, his voice calm, steady, final. The security guard moved beside the manager, placing a firm but respectful hand on his arm. "Sir, I'll have to escort you out." The manager jerked his arm back, glaring wildly at Marcus. "This isn't fair. I gave years to this place. You can't ruin me like this." Marcus's eyes burned with unflinching fire. "You ruined yourself. With every sneer, every insult, every assumption you made. Fairness would have been treating me with the dignity every guest deserves. You chose the opposite." The guard guided the struggling man toward the door. Guests watched silently, some with grim satisfaction, others shaking their heads at the shame of it all. A few lifted their phones higher, capturing the walk of disgrace. When the doors finally shut behind the former manager, the silence that followed felt lighter, cleaner, as if the entire hotel had exhaled. Marcus turned, his gaze sweeping across the lobby. "I didn't come here tonight to prove who I am. I came for the same thing everyone else wants: respect, equality, dignity. Remember this moment, all of you. Because injustice thrives when people stay silent. His words pierced the room. Some lowered their eyes, ashamed they hadn't spoken up sooner. Others nodded, gratitude in their faces that someone had said what needed to be said. Marcus softened, slightly, his voice turning more reflective. You don't need to own a building to demand respect. You don't need power to deserve fairness. Every one of us deserves to be seen, heard, and treated with dignity. Don't wait until you have control to speak up. Speak up now, for yourself and for the next person. He let those words linger. The weight of them hung in the air long after. The echo faded, and right here, I want to ask you, if you were in that lobby, would you have spoken up? Would you have defended Marcus, or stayed silent until it was safe? Be honest. Drop your answer in the comments, because these choices matter in real life. Back in the hotel, the receptionist finally gathered the courage to speak. Mr. Wright, I'm so sorry, I should have said something. Marcus, held up a hand gently. What matters is what you do next time. Don't be silent when you see injustice. That's how we change the world, one voice at a time. Tears welled in her eyes. Yes, sir. Marcus adjusted his jacket, standing taller than ever. He didn't need applause, though a few guests began clapping softly, moved by the courage and composure he had displayed. The clapping grew louder, spreading across the lobby until it became a wave of respect. Marcus didn't bask in it. He simply nodded once, his eyes steady, and walked toward the elevators. Each step carried the weight of a man who had turned humiliation into triumph. A man who had not just demanded justice, but delivered it. And as the elevator doors closed, behind him the guests remained, buzzing with what they had just witnessed. Some whispered, "I'll never forget this." Others murmured, "That man taught us something tonight." Because this wasn't just about one man in one hotel. It was about every person who had ever been told they didn't belong. Every voice that had been silenced. Every injustice that had gone unchecked. And Marcus's story, it was proof that dignity cannot be denied forever. Proof that courage can flip the script in an instant. Proof that justice, no matter how late, can still arrive with thunderous impact. So, if you're still here, listening to this moment, let me say this to you directly. Never let anyone tell you that you don't matter. Never let anyone strip away your worth. And if you see someone else being treated unfairly, don't stay quiet. Be the voice they need. Like this video if you believe in equality. Subscribe if you believe in dignity. Comment if you believe that. Courage, even in the face of humiliation, can change everything. Because together, we're not just telling stories. We're making sure they're never forgotten. Justice isn't an idea. Tonight, justice walked into a lobby and proved it was. Real,